everyone, and welcome back to Exposing SMG. Happy New Year! I hope everyone had a lovely start to the new year. I hope you enjoyed the holiday break with your family, friends, and loved ones. And I hope you guys aren't spending the new year publicly trashing your family while moaning for a reconciliation like someone we know. I have a lot in store for this month, but this video jumped to the front of my schedule because an excerpt from Prince Harry's autobiography Spare has been released by The Guardian. Since then, a couple of other media publications have gotten their hands on the book that was supposedly heavily guarded, but now everyone has a copy just a few days before release. Harry details an explosive fight between him and his older brother Prince William after William supposedly called his wife, Meghan Markle, rude and difficult. The bombshell comes shortly after Nelson Mandela's granddaughter criticized the pair as upsetting and tedious for using Nelson Mandela in their new Netflix promo. And this comes also after Harry's tell-all interviews with Anderson Cooper and Tom Bradby. Expect a video on that coming up after this one. Describing a confrontation at his London home in 2019, Harry says that William called Meghan difficult, rude, and abrasive, which Harry calls a parroting of the press narrative about his American wife. The confrontation escalated, Harry writes, until William grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and knocked me to the floor. After William complained about Meghan, Harry writes that Harry told him he was repeating the press narrative and that he expected better of him. But William, Harry says, was not being rational, leading to the two men shouting over each other. Side note, I doubt that William was reading the papers. As the future King of England, he has better things to do than sit around like the Spare and read and try to control the tabloids. So if William is calling Meghan rude and difficult, one would assume that's coming from what he's seen from Meghan behind closed doors. And is it just me, or does the story actually give credit to the fact that Meghan was a rude and demanding diva as a royal? Because Harry and Meghan claimed that the bullying reports before their Oprah interview were a smear campaign, insinuating that what was being said wasn't true. But if William was even calling out Meghan for being rude, to the point where he confronted her husband about his wife's behavior, doesn't that just give more credit to the bullying reports? Anyway, it gets funnier. Harry then accused his brother of acting like an heir, unable to understand why his younger brother was not content to be a Spare. Oh, so he's gonna cry about being born second? This is how I imagine the scene going. William in his deep voice. Your wife is rude and berating staff. Harry, you just don't know what it's like to be the Spare. You have to see it from my lens. But like, what does Harry being the Spare have to do with Meghan's rude self? The world may never know, because Harry and Meghan always lack one thing: logic. Harry writes that insults were exchanged before William claimed he was trying to help, to which Harry supposedly said, "Are you serious? Help me? Sorry, is this what you call this? Helping me?" I don't know what accent that was, but I just imagine anytime Harry speaks, it's in a whiny, girly voice. Harry writes that comment angered his brother, who swore while stepping towards him. Now scared, Harry writes, he went to the kitchen, his furious brother following, to which he handed him a glass of water and said, "Willie, I can't speak to you when you're like this." Willie? He writes, "He set down the water, called me another name, then came at me. It all happened so fast, so very fast. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment, dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out." Is anyone else uncomfortable? It sounds like one of those fan fiction stories we see written on Wattpad by 12-year-olds. Also, someone pointed out on Twitter that the dog bowl they have at the home where this supposedly happened, Nottingham Cottage, is made out of metal. And this is supposedly the scene of the crime. And the kitchen is not that roomy, and where he would have hit his head next to the dog bowl where the back is, it just nothing makes sense, which is on brand for a Meghan and Harry story. And I say Meghan because there's no way in hell you can convince me that she did not have something to do with this book and what was written in it. Let alone the fact that it was ghostwritten by an author, and definitely bullet pointed by Meghan, as she usually likes to do. But let me continue. Harry writes that William urged him to hit back, citing fights they had as children. Harry says he refused to do so. William left, Harry says, and then returned, looking regretful, and apologized. So William apologized, and yet he still chose to include this in his book for millions to read? I mean, millions is a stretch, but you get the point. Also, I have a hard time believing that the military bro Harry did not fight back and was so little terrified of Big Brother, because Harry's on record for constantly picking fights, and he was the wild child growing up. He was getting into fights with everyone, and he had like such a controversial upbringing, which I'm going to talk about in a different video, because he now blames his Nazi outfit on his brother and his sister-in-law Kate Middleton, so I'm going to make a video on the Prince of No Accountability. Now, he writes that when William left again, he turned and called back, "You don't need to tell Meg about this." To which Harry says, "You mean that you attacked me?" And William says, "I didn't attack you, Harold." Now, Harry says that he didn't immediately tell Meghan, but he did call his therapist. Now hold up, if Harry had a therapist in 2019 where this story supposedly takes place, why didn't Meghan also have one for her suicidal thoughts? Didn't she claim on Oprah and once again on Netflix that she was refused any help by the palace because they're scared of their image? But now we're finding out that the Prince, Harry, had a therapist? Why didn't he get one for his wife who was having suicidal thoughts then? And Harry writes that he only told Meghan later when she noticed the scrapes and bruises on his back, and therefore he told her of the attack, but that she wasn't surprised and wasn't all that angry, she was just terribly sad. Now, is Harry writing this, or is it his ghostwriter, or better yet, is it Meghan? Yeah, I can imagine innocent little Meg, who barely reacts because she's so classy and elegant, wasn't angry and not surprised. And the way the book is already painting Meghan as a saint and Harry as a little toddler with no spine is hilarious. And it's one thing to allow your family to get slandered, it's another thing to allow yourself to be painted as a spineless fool. According to The Guardian, Harry's resentment of being the spare is the unifying theme of the book, and that Harry recalls the story of how his father, now King Charles, supposedly said to his wife Princess Diana on the day of Harry's birth, "Wonderful, now you've given me an heir and a spare, my work is done." Now, did Diana tell her infant son that, or did Charles, or did 3-hour-old Harry remember this? And Diana said in her Panorama interview that Charles actually wanted a girl, and it was reportedly Diana who called him the spare. And Charles was actually less joyful than how he's painted in this book. Diana says that he said, "Oh god, it's a boy, and he has red hair." So nothing is really adding up. The Guardian also writes that Harry is unsparing in his recounting of intensely private scenes and conversations. And I guess that's on brand for him in his new life as a trashy reality star. In a clip from the ITV interview that Harry's giving to promote his book, he said, "I would like to get my father back, I would like to have my brother back." But he sure as hell is doing everything opposite of getting them back. Harry also recalls an anguished meeting with Charles and William after the Windsor Castle funeral of Prince Philip in April 2021. Charles says he stood between his warring sons, looking up at our flushed faces. "Please, boys," Harry quotes his father as saying, "don't make my final years a misery." Yikes. Well, I guess that went in one ear and out the other, because the only one who's publicizing this drama is Harry. He can't even move on with grace like William, who went out of his way to give a unified front at Philip's funeral, at the Diana statue unveiling, and at the Queen's funeral. When I'm pretty sure everyone listening to this and reading about Harry's little fight with William would actually rather William deck Harry once and for all in front of everyone, because his behavior at this point is appalling. If William wanted the drama and wanted to aid in Harry and Meghan's already dying public image, he would have said something by now. But the fact that it's Harry and Meghan who are all about the drama tells me exactly who's at fault here. And the fact that Prince William approached Prince Harry about Meghan Markle's treatment of staff and it resulted in a fight tells me everything I need to know. And if you recall, there were reports that Meghan was bullying not only her staff, but Cambridge staff as well. Reports that were never disproven, if only credited right now. As I said in previous videos, Harry isn't spilling any new tea. He isn't telling us anything royal biographers didn't already tell us, which again gives credibility to every story these royal biographers are saying if Harry is publishing the same thing they exposed. In June 2021, historian Robert Lacey claimed that the brothers split after William confronted Harry about allegations of bullying made against Meghan Markle by palace staff. In Battle of Brothers, the inside story of a family in tumult, Lacey writes that although relations between the princes had eased by the time of Harry and Meghan's wedding in May 2018, they worsened again in October 2018 when William learned that a senior palace aide was making allegations of bullying by Meghan to staffers. When William heard those claims and confronted his brother, they had a fierce and bitter argument, Lacey writes, leading William to start moves to remove Harry and Meghan from the joint office or household they shared. William threw Harry out, a friend tells Lacey. Now notice how Lacey writes that this took place October 2018, but Harry recalls the story in 2019. Now I don't know what the truth is. If you guys have any other details, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. This is a one-sided story from Harry, so I am taking it with a grain of salt because I expect that the truth, not his truth, but the truth, is somewhere else. Now, Lacey's book describes an angry confrontation between the princes, first over the phone and then in person when William asked Harry about the bullying claims. When Harry flared up in furious defense of his wife, the elder brother persisted, reads an excerpt. Harry shut off his phone angrily, so William went to speak to him personally. The prince was horrified by what he had just been told about Meghan's alleged behavior, and he wanted to hear what Harry had to say. The showdown between the brothers was fierce and bitter. So Harry fails to mention that the reason why William showed up at his home was because he shut off his phone instead of talking to him. So he threw a fit and then got angry when William didn't put up with him? Lacey quotes a Kensington Palace staffer as saying that people felt run over by Meghan and didn't know how to handle her. He wrote that William worried that his brother was moving too fast in his courtship, and he did not shrink from saying as much when Harry started talking about getting hitched to Meghan quite soon. Well, I guess William was right all along, and it's nice to see that the future King of England doesn't tolerate bullying of the staff or any senior royal acting like a privileged toddler. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you guys want us to cover Harry's book Spare so you don't have to? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe for more content, follow us on our social media, and stay tuned for our next videos on Harry and Meghan. And as always, I'll see you next time.